In this video, I'm going to look at how to set up my Flash or Animate document so that I can pan through something. I'm going to start with a still graphic, and then I'm going to show you how to zoom and pan through an animated graphic. So first things first, when I zoom out of this, I can see that in order to zoom and slide something, it's going to cover the stage area. So before I even begin, I'm just going to block the visibility on that layer, and I'm going to go into a layer on top of that. And here I want to create a mask layer. So in the mask layer, I'm going to first take a look at my fill and my stroke colors. So next to the little pencil here, that's my stroke. I'm going to set that to no stroke. And next to fill, I'm going to set it to either a black or a gray. In this case, I'll do a dark gray so it's similar to the background. And then I'm going to switch to the rectangle tool. And I'm going to draw a rectangle. Really, I only have to do this once, and then I can switch to the transform tool. And if I hold down Option, just like in Illustrator, I can Option drag this rectangle down. Now I'm not trying to put this on the stage. This is simply going to block anything that goes outside the stage. Now I'm going to take Option and drag this, and then I can stretch it out, stretch it in, and Option drag it over. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and lock that layer. So now when I unlock the layer underneath, you can see that I have the map, but now I'm going to be able to see where the stage area is. So on this next layer, first thing I'm going to do is have a little space to do my animation. So I'm going to go out to 100 on the timeline, go to Control Click, and do Insert Frame. So now both of these will be stretched out. And then I'm going to select the layer with the map. I can zoom out if I want, and when you zoom in or zoom out, if you then hit Command 0, it'll center it on the page, because sometimes you get kind of off center. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and then I'm going to enlarge this map even a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is just sort of slide this across and follow one of these subway lines. So let me start here. Okay. And then the next thing I need to do is convert this on the timeline to a motion tween. So I'm going to click anywhere on this bar on the timeline and go to Insert Motion Tween. And it's going to tell me it's going to make a backup symbol in the library. That's okay. If I click off, I can see that this is blue, so I know now that this graphic will be a motion tween. So now that it's already stretched out, its location at the beginning is automatically where I placed it. If I wanted it in a different location, I could go back to that first keyframe and move it, but I'm good. And then I'm going to go out to, let's go out to the, we'll go to the end, no, I'll go to the middle. Okay, so I'll go to around 50. And all I have to do is be in that place. So if the whole area has gotten selected, then you're going to need to click off of it and click back on, so you just have one area. And then when I drag this over, it's automatically going to create a keyframe here. So now if I were to play this, I press enter. Okay, seem to have a little WYSIWYG on my computer here. Let me pause that, and instead what I can do is try doing test movie. So I go to Control and I'm going to do a test. Then I can preview it in a browser, and I can see now that it's sliding over. Now let's say I wanted to slide over and then I wanted to slide up. So I had it slide over to this point. Now let's say I want to follow one of these lines up here. And by the way, this is the motion path that it's taking. So if I wanted to tweak that a little bit, I can switch to the white arrow and I can grab on the ends. I could have it move a little bit slower, a little bit faster, and just kind of play around and see what that does. Now if I come out to the end here and switch back to the transform tool again, and then this time I'm going to slide. Let's say I want to be able to see the end of that subway line. Up. Let me go one before that. See, here I had the whole line selected, so I just need to have one keyframe when I slide it, and try that again. Okay, so now it's zooming over and then it's zooming up. So let me do test movie again. Zooms over, zooms up. Now it's moving at a slightly slower pace because it's moving a shorter distance on the second half. So if I wanted to nuance the time, so since this has less distance to go, it's going to move slower. So let's say I wanted it to move at the same rate. I could take this keyframe and move it so it's kind of proportional. So this is moving longer, so it's going to take more time. This is moving shorter, so it's going to take less time. And then I can test that and see. Still moving a little bit slower, so I could probably move this over even further. And I'm good with that. Okay, so next I want to show you what would happen if I want to bring in a background like this, but I want it to also be animated. So let's take a look over at this other design that I have here. So in this piece, I've built my animated layers so that the lines will build up. And then down here at the bottom, I put in a little motion tween because I decided to add a timeline at the bottom. So here's what would happen on this without zooming. The timeline moves over. I put this little thing on the bottom as kind of a time marker. And then this is what I built in Illustrator. Okay, so if I come back here, what I have is the bulk of my animation are all of these staircase layers. So that's a little bit too much to deal with to zoom it. So what I want to do is lock the two timeline layers, and I'm going to unlock these, and a little trick is that you can click, hold down, and slide up, and you can just unlock all those locks. So then I'm going to go and take the bottom of my pyramid and hold down Shift and select the top of my pyramid, and then I'm going to go to Edit, Timeline, Copy Frames. Then I'm going to come into my library and do Insert New Symbol. So I'll call this Animated Map so I can distinguish it from all the symbol 1, symbol 2s, and I'm going to make it a graphic symbol and say OK. So now I have a blank timeline, and I have the work area for the symbol. I'm going to click on the first keyframe in this symbol and go to Edit, Timeline, Paste Frames. And now I should have that same animation now in the symbol that's in the library. And if I press Enter, I can see that zoom out a little bit. So in symbol, we don't see the stage area, but we still have that same size. So I'm going to, I could bring the mask in here if I put it on top, if I wanted to see exactly where the edges are going to be. So here's my animation, and that's located in my symbols. Okay, I can only get this really big or really small. All right, so then I'm going to go back to scene 1, and I don't need these frames anymore. So rather than deleting each frame, what I really don't need is all these layers. So I'm going to click on one layer, hold down Shift, click on the top layer, and then hit the trash can on the layers palette. And then I'm going to create a new empty layer here. So on this one, and because I already have this space, it's already going to put it in and stretch it out. I'm going to grab the animated map and I'm going to drag it out onto the stage. And then position it how I want it. Do Command 0. Use the arrow keys to kind of tab it over. And now I'm going to have a very similar animation. If I go to Control, Test, if I have more than one scene, I'll do Test Scene. I'll just do Test. And I can see this looks pretty much the same. Okay. So the difference here is that this time I can do something very similar to what I did with the still image. So once this is a symbol, it's almost like the animation itself is grouped. And so it fits on a single layer. So I can treat it as though, oops, if I double click it, I get into the animation. I can treat it as though it's a flat object. I switch over to the free transform tool, and then I'm going to enlarge it and decide how much I want to go. So how much do I want to zoom in on this? And then do very much the same thing I did before. So I'm going to turn this layer into a motion tween. And so this by default is where it starts. Then I'll move to where I want to start moving it. I can scroll through here and see how much the animation has built. So let me go here, and then I can just move it up. Then I can scroll over a little bit. Let's click off of it and get a single keyframe, and then scooch over. Scooch back. Come down. I can even zoom out of it. So I can be zoomed in, and then I can decide to zoom out. If I'm having a little trouble moving it, I'm going to use the arrow keys to push it up. And then let me go ahead and test it. So of course I would work on this so that I can get the zooming to be a little more intentional, but you get the idea.